Hello and welcome to the Follow Football Podcast. On today's show, we are here to preview England against the United States, the second game in the group. Huge game for both sides. Ben, obviously England went off to a flyer against Iran, more than we ever would have expected. We spoke a bit about it before the tournament that we'd like to make a lot of changes in this game, if possible, to give everyone a game. Obviously, we're here now, so I want to go through the team with you. What you would change, what you would be looking to give people game time. Would you be looking to rest people? Would you be looking to protect people? Starting with sort of the back line as a whole, the goalkeeper and the back four. Do you want to change anything? And if you do, what are you looking to change?
Yeah, it's tough. So the idea was always originally that I didn't want a mentality where you play the first two 11s for the first two games and then you make 10 changes in the third. And everybody that plays, they all know they're the B team. And I know that people say, oh, they're professional footballers, they understand it. But some people aren't going to accept that. All right, Cody and Henderson and these players, they're probably going to accept it and not cause too much noise. But your likes of Sterling or Foden and all of these, if they were to be in that so-called B team, the confidence that could do, the damage confidence that could do, I was careful of that. However, I wasn't expecting us to beat Iran by 6 goals to 2. So in terms of the question you've asked, defence and goalkeeper, you're not going to change your keeper. Would you change your keeper?
No.
You're not going to do that, are you? And in terms of the defence, I don't think you would change anything. I don't think. I think the only possible changes would be, would you look at trying to give Trent a game? And is Maguire going to be fit? Do you, because for me, I made this point before a tournament. Maguire's the player I'd be wanting to play every game because he needs to match practice. So they're probably the two areas that I'd look if you were going to do anything.
Well, I seen Maguire back in training the following day doing a light session. So by all accounts, I think Gareth said that he didn't feel very well, rather than it being a concussion. Which, hey, one of those. It might you occasionally see that sometimes where people just feel funny. So, oh yeah, we'll just get him off the pitch. So by all accounts, Maguire took part in training. If he was fine, he has to stay in. I would be open to playing Trent. I would be. However, I just thought Trippier looked just really good. I don't know. It's a very difficult one with Trent. Because I feel like he, I just want to give him some game time. I'm just with that back four being so shaky, and with Kyle Walker potentially coming back at some point. I don't think he will, but potentially coming back. Do you want to play three different right backs in 4 or 5 games? I'm not sure that's what's best for the side. So I'd probably be looking, providing everyone's fit, to keep the back four exactly the same as it was against Iran.
I think on the balance of everything, that's exactly the decision I'd come to. And the idea was I'd try and make five, you'd win 2-0 against Iran. And then you try and make 5 or 6 changes going into this game, and then perhaps another 5 or 6 in the third game, so that when you've looked over the course of the 3 games, virtually everybody in the squad's had a game, and but things change. And when you score 6 goals, and we played really well, didn't we? Very fluid. I don't think you want to change too much. You've got to be careful of
Yeah.
changing too much. So I think it's the right choice just to go the same back four. You make the great point of when Walker's fit, he comes back in probably if fit. So Trent, what situation is he going to play other than as a sub for 20 minutes if you need a goal? Which is a strange one, isn't it? Bringing a right back on to score a
Yeah.
goal. That's probably the only situation. So I think it makes sense not to bleed him necessarily and just stick with Trippier, who had a really good game.
Onto the midfield then. Obviously, Jude Bellingham, we both agreed best player on the pitch. Mason Mount looked lively, and obviously Declan Rice will be probably a mainstay in our team throughout the tournament. Calvin Phillips is an interesting one. He's been picked, obviously, after not playing virtually a single minute for Manchester City this season. Been injured for a long period of time, big layoff. Need to get if you have the intention of playing him at all, you feel like you want to get some minutes into his legs. Would against the United States be the time that you'd like to maybe bleed Calvin Phillips in, see if you get an hour under him, or are you very much no? We like the midfield. The balance looked pretty good, and Calvin Phillips is very much there, similar to Henderson on a bit more of an emergency backup basis rather than someone who you expect to play an active part in the tournament.
It's a great problem. It's a great problem to have. And it's a problem that we've really got now because of that first game, because of the way the first game's gone. You could argue both sides. I don't think you'd change too much. So you would want to give Phillips, Henderson minutes. I feel like I don't know them personally, obviously, but I feel like they're the types of people that if you pick them in the third game, I don't think there'd be too much in it. I think they'd probably take that. So you'd probably go with the same midfield. The only change might be Mason Mount. Maybe you'd look to bring Foden in midfield. Maybe you'd play Foden in the front three, but that's perhaps the only change. But I thought Mount was quite lively, as you referred to. So probably wouldn't be changing too much in the midfield.
I agree with you. Rice and Bellingham have to play. Mason Mount, we give him a tough time. It's probably based on the fact that we don't feel like he should always be there on merit, but he was very good against Randall, very lively. And the balance of the midfield looked really good, albeit you don't feel that Mount's going to be the difference in the big games. That's why I would like to get Foden in there. Having said that, does he play that often in midfield? Not really. With Jack Grealish potentially coming in again, he doesn't very often play in midfield. So I'd be open to it, but I would probably be looking to play Mason Mount again, just because not very, not mindlessly. If it's not broken, why fix it? I just felt the midfield looked really good, and they had so much control in so many different ways. They were very much in charge, and I'd probably keep it the same, despite the fact that before the tournament, I would have wanted to get Maddison in. He still hasn't trained, so James Maddison getting him in would have been in my thinking. He hasn't played. He hasn't even kicked a ball in training, really. Well, so I'm led to believe he hasn't took part of full training. Can you throw him in? Not really. Is he even going to be fit enough? Probably not. I don't even think he'd be fit enough for the bench against the United States. So if you can't get Maddison in, which is what I would have liked to do pre-tournament, I probably wouldn't change it.
That's where things change so fast, because Maddison would have started that first game for me, but then he's not fit, and then he doesn't start the first two, and suddenly there is no way that he probably plays a minute in the rest of the tournament unless it's off the bench. He won't start a game because you play him in the third game, but there'll be other players, Grealish, Foden, all of those that are probably going to start in that third game. And then you're going to chuck him in around a 16 game? No, you're not going to do that. So Maddison probably won't play through the rest of the tournament. Foden, you talked about in midfield. As much as we both know, I think that probably would be his best position. He is only ever going to play on the wings in the bigger games. You're not going to play him against Spain in midfield. So for that reason, you want to be playing him in the position he's going to be playing further in the tournament. So I don't think it makes sense to replace Mount with Foden there, as you referred to.
No, I agree. Absolutely right. Onto the front three then. Sterling and Saka both scored in that game. Obviously, Saka had the two. People praised his performance. Both looked very lively throughout the game, and obviously Harry Kane would be an ever-present in normal circumstances as the number 9. Are you keeping that the same as well? Is Saka undroppable?
Yeah, starting on Saka, I think it's really tough to. It's completely U-turn to what I'd have said on Sundays. I wanted to come into this game and make 5 changes early to avoid the B team mentality and all of that. And I do think that was right. But after scoring 6 goals, that really does change things. It's tough to look Bukayo Saka in the eye and tell him you're not playing after scoring a couple, despite the fact we didn't actually think he was great. He was okay. But it's more like the momentum thing. You're putting the fire out a little bit if you don't let him play. So I think Saka has to start, and he is probably the only natural suitor to that right-hand side anyway. So I don't think that causes too many issues. I think the one is probably Raheem Sterling. Sterling played well. Sterling probably deserves to start, but it is a case of a little bit of thinking. Can you give Foden a game here on the left-hand side and perhaps play Sterling in the third one? Perhaps playing both in the third one, I don't know, but just floating ideas about whereby you're not dropping Raheem Sterling. It's just about giving Foden some minutes. I think the beauty of the manner of which we won that first game, it's the whole idea I had about getting players on the pitch. We managed to do it all in the first game because we'd scored so many goals. We could make all of those changes and everybody got sort of 30 minutes plus.
No, you're absolutely right. Did you go with Sterling then? Put it to
Probably not. I'd probably go with Foden.
I'd try and get Foden in. I think Foden deserves to play.
Yeah, I'd go with Foden, I think. And on the basis, I just have to tell Raheem Sterling that he's not dropped and he will come on. And, you're probably going to play in the third game. It's just a case of giving players minutes. It's trying to stick to that original idea that, rotating the side about a little bit. And this is probably the only change so far that we've made in this team. And it's not because you played badly, you played well in the first game. It is just a case of bleeding new players in.
Absolutely. On to the number 9 then. We watched the game together. I remember wincing I was saying to you, like, that looked a problem when Kane went down on his ankle. I've had a dodgy ankle for a while, know what it's like, know that Kane's had trouble with his ankle, and that the way the player's gone down on him was quite awkward. The guy's gone down, I think, sort of trapped his ankle as he was in flow, and it sort of like hyperextended his ankle slightly. And I felt, oh, this could be a problem. Obviously, he played on for a little bit, then went off. I think he's back in training, back to have a scan. They were a bit worried about him. Callum Wilson also is struggling with fitness a little bit. I think he always is, Callum Wilson. I think he's one of them that you've just got to manage him a little bit. Would you be looking just to rest them both? Because they are two, or certainly Kane, because they're very important. We don't have Kane is our best player. He simply is our best player. We need him fit if we want to go deep in the tournament. Is it worth the risk? We're playing the United States. We've already won our first game. We've got Wales in the third game. Would you just say, Harry, have a day off? Get your ankle back to full fitness, and we'll go again next week.
Depends on the state of that injury, doesn't it? If he's fit and he actually is fit, I'd probably still play him, and I'd look to rest him in the third game. If you win against USA, you're through. You can rest him in that third game. The whole thing about not trying to create that mentality, everybody knows Harry Kane's the man. So Callum Wilson being back up to him, he'd have known that going in. So you're not going to cause too much offence with that one. You mentioned Callum Wilson not being fully fit. Is that right? So that means that
That's what I read yesterday morning. Yeah.
Marcus Rashford would probably have to be that man down the middle. Would that be right?
Yeah.
If it was up to me, if Harry Kane is fit, I'd play Kane.
But if he's 85% fit, is it worth the risk?
No.
With the plethora of different options we have, Raheem Sterling could go down the middle, Rashford could go out wide, Foden could go out wide, Jack Grealish comes in. So many different options. My thinking is just, and it shouldn't be like this defeat is, shouldn't be too negative about things. But if he's not quite there, if there's just a slight niggle, I don't want to risk him. I don't want him getting injured, in a 50-50 against the United States when we might need him against France in 2 weeks' time.
100%. So if he's 85% fit, if he's 95% fit, I wouldn't play him. I'd need him to be 100% fit and then rest him in that third game. But if he is not, then yeah, Callum Wilson, if fit, and if not, Marcus Rashford.
And you happy if either of them play?
Absolutely. I think both Rashford came on for a touch, scored a goal. Good goal as well. I liked that, but poor defending. But good goal. Like the way that he come inside off the right as well. He don't often do that. So I was pleased with Rashford when he came on. And Callum Wilson, I thought, obviously, the unselfishness to square that ball to Jack Grealish, good way to pass, good vision. And I like what Wilson's about. So I'd be happy with either of those two playing.
And that just shows how quickly things change in football. Me and you on here the other day talking about the fact that we made 5 or 6 changes in the second game. This is what we do. This is what we do. And we basically agreed that providing everyone's fit, we'd keep probably 10 of the 11 exactly the same.
If Kane is fully fit, then you go with Kane?
If Kane's fully fit, go with Kane. But if there's any doubt...
And if not, you're going Rashford?
Don't risk it. If not, I'm probably going Rashford for the same reason that I don't think Wilson is fully fit either.
Fine. Well, look, mate, things do change quickly, but we didn't see a 6-2 win coming. So it's one of those things. We have to take it on the chin, and it's a great problem to have. That's our England team. Just ran through it, only making the one change. No offence to Raheem Sterling. It's just trying to get Foden some minutes.
Score prediction.
Score prediction. I'm going 2-1.
2-1. Okay, I'm going 3-0.
3-0. Confident, and that's what we like. 3-0 England. We're through the groups and we're playing Wales on Tuesday night, and we can literally change the entire team. Just imagine it. It is coming home.